but otherwise, nobody really cares. So be kind, be happy, be helpful. I always say to do more than it's expected of you. So putting the grocery cart back at the grocery store instead of leaving it next to your car, tiny little things like that add up, so that when I'm helping someone sell a house, I'm going above and beyond and doing way more than I need to be doing as a realtor. And I don't upcharge. I don't charge more commission, because I want to deliver. Yeah, I think I'm saying overdevelop, over deliver and exceed expectations. That's always my motto too for my work, exceeding expectations. And it's okay. And I'm not getting taken advantage of, and I'm not owed more because I had a hard path, because we've all had some sort of path to get where we are.
Wow. I love how you look at things. It's really refreshing, and I feel like people connect with the people that they're supposed to connect with when they're in the right place to connect with them.
Yeah.
So everything in divine timing. Hello, everyone, and thanks for joining us today on another episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. Today, I have Annie Baker on, and we're going to be sharing her journey, her insights, and all the things that you can learn from her. Annie, thank you so much for being here. And I'm just going to start out by letting you share a little bit about who you are and how you started.
Sure. Cassia, thanks for having me. It's been so fun meeting you and listening to your podcast. So I love it. I'm Annie Baker. I am a realtor, and I am a realtor in California, but my journey is a little bit different, and my business is a little bit different than most realtors. So I got back in the business about 20 years ago, kind of going through a divorce, and needed, a flexible job that I could make money. And I would work with any buyers, any sellers, whatever it took. And then about 5 years into my journey, I was referred an 81-year-old woman that was alone, living in a big 4,000 square foot custom built home that she had been in for like 40 or 50 years. And she needed to move into like a, independent seniors community. There was, assisted living and whatnot, but she was still able to live on her own, but she was moving into 400 square feet, just a little room. And I just felt so like compelled to be everything for her and protect her and help her. So that opened up my eyes to this world of senior real estate, essentially, and helping seniors downsize or selling inherited properties. So that was in 2010. I met senior move managers, senior placement advisors, estate sale, different kind of estate sale companies. And by 2012, I was sure that was all I wanted to do. By 2016, since now, that's all I've done. So that's the only kind of real estate I do. So primarily, it's always listings. And sometimes I'm helping a senior. Sometimes they're moving in with family. Sometimes they're moving into memory care. I kind of see a lot of range, and a lot of inherited property sales. So during that journey, I decided to write a book about it, because I felt like so many people weren't really prepared for this phase of their life either. So I wrote a book. It's Amazon bestseller. So that was 2 years ago. And it really just sort of outlines resources for families if they're going through this. Like, I had never heard of a senior placement advisor. Right. And essentially what that is I call it like a buyer's realtor. And they will take the senior and their family members, whoever wants to go, and they'll show them different senior communities. So just like realtors will know, the ins and outs of different neighborhoods or school districts or, things that would be important to a buyer, they know what's important to a family, and different activities that are available at different communities, or different medical resources available at different communities. And so they're a fantastic resource, and you don't have to pay them. They get paid by the facility. It's like a referral fee, essentially. So definitely a fantastic resource if you're thinking about having to move your parents. And I also recommend doing it. Start sort of looking into all these things before you think it's time, because when it's time, it's too late. Like, oh my gosh, it gets scary. Maybe your parents aren't safe living alone and whatnot. And anyway, the other aspect of all of that is taking the sort of parenting relationship away from you, because it really becomes a role reversal. So your parents aren't parenting you at all anymore. You're basically parenting them, but that's super uncomfortable for the parent. They don't want to be sort of guided and told what to do by their adult children most of the time. Occasionally they're fine. But so when you bring in third parties to help with this transition, it's really, really helpful. And, I personally do a lot more of, I would say, like mediating and counseling when it's inherited properties, because the siblings tend to a lot of times have sort of past traumas of, relationship issues growing up, and mom liked her better and dad liked him better or something. And so there's a lot of things that go on with that. So yeah, I just try and really be a resource, an ear, and really get as much money out of these house sales, because every house sale you want to get as much as you can, but in these situations, I really feel even sort of more of a privilege that, gosh, this is a legacy if the person is passing. And if they haven't passed, they're going to need all the funds they can get to pay for the new living situation, because it can be pretty costly.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. It's awesome that everything led you to where you are now, writing the book, helping people. How is that going? Like, what are you seeing from that?
So it's been great. I mean, my book, it took me, gosh, almost 6 years to write, because I was just writing here and there on the weekends, and wouldn't write for months. And so it was kind of a long process. By the end, I was like, oh my gosh, I can't read one more line and edit anymore. And I kind of was like, really, who's going to read this book? And I've been really surprised by the feedback, and yeah, people have really liked it. It's just a really easy read, essentially, and just kind of to the point. And I bring in some examples. One client I had, she had no family left. She was, I think, 92, and she's had a little dog, little Howie. So I remember Howie, and I'd even offer to take Howie if anything happened, but anyway, she's alone, no family. But really, she had been having in-home care for years, but it just wasn't working. It wasn't enough anymore. So the attorney and I basically helped. We became like her family, and helped sell everything in the house, helped move her. I mean, we took care of everything, and it was such a privilege. So I get kind of like almost a little possessive that anyone in this situation, like, I need to be there, because I'm just going to have so much kindness and compassion. And I do see times where realtors will walk into some of these kinds of houses. A lot of times there's deferred maintenance. That generation tended to not update their house as much as, younger generations have. So a lot of times, other realtors will just walk in like, oh, we're just going to have to sell this to an investor. There's so much work needs to be done. Well, I also work with investors, because sometimes the families don't want to do a thing. There's like, Annie, please, we just want this done as fast as possible to an investor. But I'll at least make investor sort of bid. So I'll do like an open house just for investors. But there are other realtors that will just say, oh, I've got an investor. They get that one really probably lowball offer, and that realtor gets that sale, and then the investor fixes it up, and then they get the second sale. So they sort of have an agenda. It's kind of like elder abuse a little bit. I see, I hear so many stories of elder abuse. And so I'm really lucky that I've been doing this so long that when I meet families, they're usually kind of blown away by my perspective, and how I always say I'm sort of like the quarterback, and I can bring in whoever you need to help facilitate this. And sometimes I have, if it's an inherited property, sometimes all the children live out of the area. I've sold houses, I've fixed them up for them beforehand, I've emptied them, all on FaceTime, sometimes with family members. Yeah, one time it was just one daughter. She inherited her dad's house, and she was in Texas, and a nurse and a young mom, and she couldn't be there. So her dad's best friend and I handled everything. So I sort of always feel like, let me be there, because I'm going to help you do a really good job. And so I guess that's a warning to anyone out there listening that might be in this position of elder parents or inheriting a property.
Right.
be careful, like interview different realtors. Don't just think, oh, my friend can help me. My friend's a realtor. A lot of realtors don't really have any clue about all the resources, or they just call an estate sale company because it was the first one that popped up on Google. And there are a lot of different kinds of estate sale companies. Some charge a lot, some are a lot more affordable. So I do kind of talk about that in my book. But it's a niche that I think you kind of have to have this specialty. And there aren't that many of us that do it. So
well, that's awesome, because you are definitely the go-to for it. So that's awesome. You've been able to have a really amazing career based on your love of helping people. So,
Yeah, and it was funny when I started to niche in this, a lot of people kept saying, well, I mean, Annie, you'll still help other buyers, right? Or if you get referrals. And I kept saying, no, not really, because I realized the parts of the real estate business that I didn't enjoy, I just didn't have a great attitude. I mean, I would when I would be in front of the clients, but behind closed doors, I'd be like, oh my gosh, I have to go show property. And I just didn't enjoy it. And when I started to kind of focus on these kind of clients, I would want to get up early. I would be excited to, organize for them or whatever I need to do. If I needed to go meet them, I was so excited. So I think that was my biggest, kind of light bulb, that do what makes you happy and what you feel like you're fulfilled doing, it's a purpose. And so my business has flourished. And I'm in the top 1% of realtors in California, top 1.5% in the US, just specializing in this niche. So I'm really proud of that. I'm really proud of my book, but I really think it all came from a place of wanting to do the right thing and helping people that made me feel good too. And I'm good at it. So it's fun, and so I think for any entrepreneur, I think that's the lesson really, is knowing if you love something, they always used to say that. I remember growing up, find something you like to do and you'll never work a day in your life. And then, adulting kind of hits and you need to pay bills and, you're kind of doing a grind of just getting by or trying to get a little bit ahead. And once you can find your groove, it's just really powerful. And part of, I'm sort of shifting a little bit with my career, because after I wrote my book, I had so many people approach me and, how did you write it? Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to write a book. Or how did you get to be a bestseller and things like that. So I started just talking to people and helping them. And then I realized I love people's story. I think that's why I love my senior clients and the inherited property. There's always so much story behind it. And you hear people's lives and it's just so fascinating to me. So now I help entrepreneurs. I just launched this business, in 2024 to help entrepreneurs get their stories out, because I think people are busy with their work. And the way I've chosen to do it, because I knew how long it took me. It was 6 years, and then another probably close to 7 years to kind of get the cover done and get the book formatted right and get it published, that I realized there's a faster way to do it. And so the way I do it now is, as long as any entrepreneur can come up with an outline, and I can help them with that, and we get kind of a detailed outline, then we do like Zoom recordings like this. And usually it's about, we break it up, but around 5 to 6 hours. And I talk them through the outline. And so I know all these little things. And then I give the recordings to a ghostwriter and they write it in the book format. But so some people say, well, I don't want to use a ghostwriter. That's not really me. And I'm like, no, this is completely your voice, your message, what you want to say. But instead of you taking possibly years to write it, we'll sit there and have the ghostwriter write it. And then, we have editors, you can edit and make sure it feels like your voice. And then I have people that can help, create the cover. We brainstorm about titles. There's sort of tricks about what titles do better and all that. And then we can get you to be an Amazon bestseller. And it just gives so much more depth to someone's business, being able to say, hey, I'm a best-selling author, I'm an author of a book, and they can do a lot more with that and create more courses and do speaking engagements, do podcasts, whatever. So I kind of now have morphed from only doing my real estate to doing both, but there's no reason I can't keep doing both. I love it. I love it all.
That's so awesome. That's so awesome. So let me ask you, right? This entrepreneurial journey for you,
Mhm.
started out of necessity then, right?
Mhm.
To where you are now. If you had to give your younger self some advice, right? What advice would you have given yourself looking back?
So God, it's so interesting. I've thought about that so much because I think sometimes, wow, I wish I took a shorter path. But at the same time, I think I did a lot of things right because I did trust myself that, um, I knew I needed a flexible job. I always loved real estate from an investment standpoint. So I did follow certain things that were important to me. So I think that's the biggest thing is always make sure you're following what's important. But I think what I didn't do and what I would tell myself is really what do you get excited for in the morning to do that day? And if you're not excited, don't don't keep going down that path. And I kept going down paths of like just trying to get business and door knocking and doing things that I was miserable doing. And I
Wow.
would try and like spin it in my head that, oh, you're getting fresh air, you're walking. And I wouldn't even knock on people's doors. I would just leave flyers at the door because I don't like when people knock on my door. So I was trying to be respectful. But oh my gosh, I did that for years, probably 4 years, and it just was not fun. So I think it really goes back to cutting down the time of don't keep doing it over and over and over if you don't like it. There are parts of our lives when we have to do things we don't really like to, pay bills but I should have listened to my instincts sooner to just say, "Oh my gosh, stop doing that and just focus on what you love." So I,
And
I really think that's the biggest thing.
and was it a mentor that helped you realize that, or how did that shift happen?
Um, I think it was just me. And because even when I first got into real estate, my best friend and my mom, they were just worried for me that, oh my gosh, you have a job that's not stable and all that. Like they didn't even want me to do real estate. And then when I started to say that I wanted to just specialize in the seniors, oh my gosh, everyone and their brother. I mean, everybody. I didn't have one person saying, oh my gosh, Andy, that's fantastic. And I will say I did meet an appraiser, this woman. She was in this female networking group I was in. And she was telling me that she did not like working for the banks, doing, like if you are refinancing your house or buying your house, you have to have an appraisal done.
Right.
And she just didn't like that. She said it was such a grind. And so she started to just work with the consumer directly. So sometimes people are going through a divorce and they just need the value of their house. They're not selling it, but they just need it for the value of the asset. Or people have passed away and you need a time of death appraisal for
Oh,
taxes. So, yeah. So, unless you're selling the house within 6 months, it's really good to get that time of death appraisal done. She can do it, and good appraisers can go back like 10 years and do it, but that is something good. Otherwise, your step up tax basis is not realized. Like you're still paying taxes from when the house is originally bought. But then if you go to sell the house and no time of death appraisal was done at the time of like one partner, you can have a huge tax burden. So
wow.
anyway, so she would just do things like that. And she said it took her about 5 years to transition, but she did not work for a bank. So I met her probably about halfway through those 5 years. And she was like, she'd be excited that, okay, I've got more business that's just with consumers. But she was very much like me. Like she felt like she liked to have the personal connection with the people versus just this anonymous bank, get us the report, we need it fast. And so once I knew she was doing it, I kept saying, Annie, you're on the right path. Just keep
Mhm.
doing it. But I mean, I still to this day have some friends, um, that are like, well, you come on, you'll still work with other people. And I'm like, I really
No.
don't. It's just not worth it to me. I don't, it's not just about the money to me. And I'm doing well enough that I can say no. And I can
Right.
refer someone to another realtor.
Right.
But I really think just sticking to what I really think it's like you follow the joy. It's like, follow the yellow brick road, follow your joy and you'll get there faster and probably be a little bit more successful than you would have otherwise.
Right. 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 Wow. your journey is definitely, an amazing journey, especially looking at where you are now, right? And learning, because a lot of the times, you kind of beat yourself up. You're 4 or 5 years in, you're still doing the same thing, and you're like, well, I don't want to stop because I like the amount of money I'm making, but you're not enjoying the process of doing it, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I feel like there's so many realtors out there just so beat up by it. But I mean, it's
Hmm.
a rough business. It's competitive. There's a lot of changes with interest rates are up, they're down,
Right.
and there's so much negative noise in our world. And that's my other thing is like, turn off the TV, turn off the noise. I always say people are buying and selling regardless if interest rates
Exactly.
are 15%. Someone has to buy or sell. And so, yeah, it gets a little bit more competitive, but I used to have 4 agents that worked for me, and that was my biggest thing. I had them read affirmation cards every day. I'm really big on things like that. And I would just say, stop listening to the noise. And they all always said they did the best they ever did while they were working for me. And only 2 of them are still in the business, and they've kind of not done as well. And I think a lot of it is because they get down, they get negative, that, oh my gosh, it's just so hard right now. And I'm like, it's not
Hmm.
hard. There's always people buying and selling, whether it has nothing to do with even my niche, but there are people getting divorced. There are first-time home buyers. There are
Right.
someone else, and there's just always people that need housing. So you just have to stay focused on that. And so I do have a program that I mentor other realtors that want to specialize in the seniors niche. And
Hmm.
it's a program like they white label my book. And so they can take my book and modify it, put their own personal stories in it, put a new cover, new title with their name on it, and then they can use it for marketing in their neck of the woods. And
Hmm.
they can't sell it commercially like mine's out there, but that's really fun to help. And everyone I've worked with so far, and so I'm talking about people all over the country, they're always kind of I feel like there's such this negative kind of, oh, it's just been really tough. This book will help me, stand above. And I'm always like, you don't even need this book. You're going to be fine. But the
Right.
book will make it a little easier. You can go to attorneys and network, with investment advisors and say, hey, look, I really know what I'm doing in this niche, and just sort of elevates you. But really, you got to stay positive, and you have to.
Right.
And if you love what you're doing, it's a lot easier, I think. Um,
Right. And you know what? Since you've opened up about, that whole, can you let us know a little bit more about what that looks like, your white label program, and when did you start it?
Yeah, so I started that shortly after I published the book. Because again, I had, and I'm not a big social media poster in terms of my buying and, selling for my clients and stuff.
Right.
Somehow I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's such a personal experience for my clients going through
Right.
stuff. So I post definitely a little bit, but not a lot. But I remember I made a comment in some real estate group on Facebook about, yeah, I specialize in that. And so this woman started talking to me, well, how'd you specialize in? Oh my God, that's what I want to do and everything.
Oh, wow.
And then it just sort of dawned on me, why can't I let her use my book? It'll sort of
Mhm.
condense that time. And I always tell people too that, hey, if you want to write your own book, we can do that too. I mean, my publishing book business too. So we can start from scratch. It's a whole different price point, although it's pretty affordable. But my white labeling book is really affordable program because I, mentor them too. But so I branded myself in my real estate business as Next Chapter Real Estate. It's not my brokerage company or anything. It's just me because I've always felt like there was a sadness too, that whether someone was moving out of their lifelong, home and into assisted living or something like that, there was always this kind of like, oh, this phase of my life is over. And I would always just kind of say, hey, it's just the next chapter. It's going to be fun. Like this is just a different chapter of your life.
Mhm.
And so I just kept saying it so much, like, oh, I'm going to start. That's what I'm going to, call myself Next Chapter Real Estate. So my book is Next Chapter Real Estate. And so my mentoring program is Next Chapter Annie. So I have a Instagram page. It's Next Chapter Annie. And then you can go to that website, nextchapterannie.com, that talks about the white labeling. And so essentially I give people the Word document version of my book. And I already highlight everywhere in the book that it's kind of more specific to me. So we make sure they change that part. And then, like I said, I help them with the book cover and, any kind of changes they want. If they have questions or anything, I'll tell them if I think it's a good idea or not. And then, we get it printed. So they buy usually around 100 copies, and they do basically what I did when I first had my book come out. I would go to attorneys, and a lot of these people I'd already been networking with, but investment advisors. You can go to the assisted living communities, and I'd give them a couple copies of the book. And it was funny when I first started doing that. People were like, "Oh my gosh, will you sign it?" And I'm like, sign it. Cool. Yeah, I was like, okay. And so it's like, it really does sort of elevate you, it's like, wow, you're this expert, and then when I think about it, I'm like, I really am the expert. Yeah, I do know what I'm talking about.
Oh, wow. Did you ever have that like real insecure feeling, like, really, am I? Did you have, or do you still have at any moment, like imposter syndrome?
Yeah, I think every once in a while I still have it, but definitely when the book first came out, I was almost a little embarrassed. Behind closed doors, I cried. I was like holding the book in your hand. You're like, I did it. I really, really did it, because it's accomplishment to start and finish it like that. And so I was so happy, but then I was a little embarrassed. And then my parents live in a 55 and older community, like active community, and in Arizona, and my mom was telling everybody. I was like, oh my gosh, Mom, stop. What if people don't like the book? I don't want to embarrass you or anything. And one of their neighbors was a retired senator from, like, I think it was Oregon or Washington. And he wrote a note to my mom. My mom sent me, like, tell your daughter this book was fantastic, because it's just very simple. It's not complicated. I really just kind of get to the point, like, it's really meant to be a resource. And I talk about, like, legal documents to be prepared to have your house in a living trust, have your medical health care directive done, all those things. Sometimes people think, well, I had my will done. Well, a will won't protect you from probate, which is a legal process that costs thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars. So I had a condo. It was just a small little condo here, a 1-bedroom condo, and 2 brothers were really close, and they inherited it after their mom passed, and she'd been sick for years, and they never got the house or the condo in a living trust. They never had. The mom just had her will, and they had to. I think they spent like $40,000 in the probate process. And it's not just the money. It's like, you literally have to document everything in the house, the value, who's getting what if you're selling what, and it's just, sometimes you have to get, it's called a probate referee, which is like an appraiser, and they appraise the cars and jewelry or whatever it is. And it's nonsense if everyone's amicable. It's like, there should be a caveat. Hey, no, we all get along. There's no one's contesting this, but that's what the living trust is. So I do have a chapter on that. So that's really good for everyone to be prepared. So anyway, so it was very kind of reassuring. Another woman in a networking group, her mom is having Alzheimer's, and it's sad. And she read the book, and she, texted me one day. She goes, oh my gosh, Annie, I didn't even know there was senior daycare centers. I just called a couple places for my mom. And it's essentially like daycare, but just for the senior. So it was really rewarding that people were like getting tips and letting me know. So anyway, so I did have that sort of imposter syndrome, but now that it's been a little while, and it's gone away a lot, I think it helped my confidence too. So I think having that book in your hand somehow makes you feel like, I do know what I'm talking about.
No, you know what though? I mean, you're talking 6 years worth of experience, just writing, going through, thinking about the process. I mean, you really do have the know-how, and you do really have the knowledge,
Yeah. So it's rewarding. And, I think I gave it to my husband right at the end, to just sort of, see if I did anything wrong, see if there's any edits. And he read it in like one day, with throughout the day. And he's not a huge reader. And he's like, I'm like, honey, what are you doing? He goes, this is really good. He goes, wait, are we prepared with this? Or do we have this good? And I was like, yeah, we're good, hon. But he was like, and he hears me talk to my clients all the time, but even he was like, oh, this is really good. So, Yeah. So I guess, with my journey, my two biggest lessons have been follow the joy, really that's what matters. And, um, I am more than enough. I
Wow.
know my stuff. I've learned enough. So that imposter syndrome every once in a while creeps in, but for the most part now I'm just so at peace with who I am and comfortable and no, I just keep learning. There's no destination, that's for sure. It just keep learning, keep going.
That's for sure. And how do you feel with your entrepreneurial journey? How do you feel going out there, being on social media, doing podcasts, walking, talking to people? How has that helped you?
I love it because even with my publishing company, I call myself the CCO, and it's the Chief Cheerleading Officer, because I really want everyone else to succeed like I have. There is so much business for all of us, whatever business you're in. There just
Mhm.
is plenty for everybody. And so I love sharing my experiences with my clients. And that's why I do more on social media. I kind of talk about situational things that come up with clients or how I would handle things. And for realtors, it's like, stay away from the noise.
Mhm.
Know that there's enough real estate business for anyone that really wants it. Um, and so I love I love sort of helping other people's in that sense, and also, getting people's stories out there. I mean, we all have our own stories, right? I
Mhm.
mean, you just said,
Mhm.
where did your journey start? And it started, from a divorce essentially.
Mhm.
And so it's like we all have a path of how we got to where we are, and that path doesn't end. It just keeps going. And so that's, I just love that I keep evolving too. It's like I said, I love my clients. I love the niche that I'm in, but I love helping other realtors specialize in that niche and having them be successful. And I love now any entrepreneur that wants to tell their story and
Right.
get it out there. It's so, I just think I mean, maybe that's a point when you get to have some level of success, you realize you want everyone to feel it too, because it's nice going to sleep at night knowing not only your bills paid, but you're fine, that you
Mhm.
do what you want. And
Mhm.
there were some years I didn't have that feeling. My
Right.
ex-husband was a professional athlete and we didn't have to worry about money for a lot of years. And then he had brain trauma. He was a professional hockey player in NHL, and he had some really bad head injuries, and really, really affected him. So, he's suicidal and he was kind of manic and he blow through tons of money. And so when we got divorced, people kept saying, oh, well, you're your husband's an ex-athlete. Like, I'm sure you have plenty of money. You can do whatever you want. And I'm like, oh no, I have 60,000 in debt starting today and
Wow.
zero income. And so I remember I paid it off, and I ended up paying off 20,000 of his debts. He had 60,000 too, because I think I got a check, and part of our debt was like taxes or something. So they took 20,000 out of my account in the blink of an eye, and he never paid me back. I mean, there's a lot of issues there, but he and I are still close. He's still alive to this day, but he still really struggles. So, um, I guess I just feel like, coming from times of really scared, how am I going to pay for my kids? They were in high school at the time and they're girls, so they're
Wow.
expensive. And now knowing that I can take care of myself, them, whoever and I want other people to always have that feeling too.
Wow. And was it hard to share that story starting out, or like how was that transition? Because a lot of people suffer from trauma, going through traumatic situations, and then now putting themselves out there. You're starting your new career as a realtor. Did you ever share your story? Did you share your story on social media first?
I haven't really shared that as much, not because of any real reason, I guess. So my ex-husband, we had just moved back to this area, the Bay Area of California. He had played for the San Jose Sharks, and he became a broadcaster here. So that was the main reason we moved back. And so he was still out in the public eye and working, and had that sort of celebrity status where we lived. And, you know, people didn't understand how badly he was struggling because on, face value, he looked great. But I mean, he would be about to go on the air for a game, texting my daughters and me, goodbye and asking me to do a really good, take care of the girls for him because who's going to commit suicide after the game, and that happened numerous times and it was really hard. And so I think there's this element that I didn't want, that was his story to tell, not mine. And he ended up kind of having a public breakdown essentially. And it was kind of news and there've been articles and he's done interviews about it now. He's very open about his struggles, but he still struggles. So we're all very open about it. My daughters have gone to therapy. We all have had our therapists and we're all big advocates of mental health. And so I'm very outspoken that way. But I haven't really talked too much about it. My ex always says I need to write a book called How to Do Divorce Right, because I was so adamant that what happened between us was not our daughter's fault. So I was never going to fight about money with him. I was never going to say, oh, you can't have the girls for a holiday or not. I was always like, we'll work it out. And if I get the short end of the stick, which I definitely got financially. I mean, we had a house in Canada that had to be in his parents' name because I'm not Canadian and he was. And they sold the house and he got all the proceeds. And people would say to me, oh my gosh, you got to get an attorney, you got to do. And I was like, what is that going to do for me? That's just not going to help me. I need to put food on the table. I need to pay my rent. I need to pay for my daughter's activities. And arguing over where the money is going to come from is not helpful. So again, it was like I had to stay out of the noise. And so now, I mean, during the time, he just sort of was like the celebrity and kind of just out there. And I just couldn't go down that rabbit hole with him. So I just had to keep making my own money. I figured, well, what if he had died? What if he had committed suicide already? I would still have to pick up the pieces financially anyway. So anyway, so he now has kind of come through a lot of the really hard time. I mean, maybe he wouldn't say that, but we think it's really hard time. I mean, one point my daughter had to drive him across country because he was so paranoid that everyone was out to get him. I mean, that's a long story, but anyway, so we're kind of out of that, but now he always says like, how did you not hate me for all that time? And I was like, I had a lot of compassion for you because I knew it wasn't, it was head injury. And, so that's a whole another topic. But so for me, it's always about like your mindset and staying positive and finding gratitude and moving forward. And doesn't mean I don't have my times. Like, gosh, I used to drive to church parking lots and sit and cry. And I would give myself a certain time frame. I would always do it beforehand, like walking in, okay, I'm going to sit here for 10 minutes. I'm going to cry and let it out. And then that's it. And I think kind of having those moments would be really helpful. I remember my now husband and I were dating. Sometimes I would do things like that. Well, this is actually before, COVID, where you could actually go in the church and, because then they had closed and run everything. So I would go in and just sit at the back and light a candle. And I'm not super religious or anything, but it was just a quiet, calm place. And I would turn my phone off. And if he ever knew my phone was off for a while, he's like, oh my God, go look for a church. Where is she? Sometimes now I sit at parks or whatever, and I still do it. Sometimes you have a rough day. Sometimes I feel like, gosh, I just did such a great job for my client. And they're still upset about something really peculiar, but they get fixated and it makes me sad. So sometimes I just need to go be sad and let it go. And then they'll always come back like, gosh, Annie, I'm so sorry. I got upset earlier. You're just, whatever. But it's still always like, wait a second, I'm doing a really good job. And so, yeah, confining your moments of sadness and anger and frustration, let it out, and then get back to where's that joy.
You know what? I love that. And I love that attitude because, for me, I know I get caught up in my head. My personality type is, I sit down and I think and I overthink, so it's always helpful when I hear tips about how I can help to reduce the noise. And that is amazing. Just sitting there, finding a moment and just let it out. And then, okay, let's move on. It's over. It's done.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think even the last couple years, I just did this yesterday, as a matter of fact. I'll go on a walk and I always like have headphones on, but I literally will talk out loud. And I think I did for 10 minutes. I was just sad. My daughter had gone home, and I was just sort of sad. She lives across the country, and I needed a little bit of a pity party just to feel it. And I also needed to turn it around. And so I just walk and I talk out loud and I say, what am I really feeling? What's going on? Some tears stream because I know I'm missing her. And then I just turn it around that, gosh, look at how I'm so lucky that I was able to fly her out here for a short visit and we got to do all those amazing things and whatever. But it's sort of like a walking meditation in my mind, that I'm just talking through it and feeling it, and then it's gone. But instead of holding on to it and the rest of the day being on and off sad, you just
Right.
gotta feel it.
That's awesome. And do you have any kind of mantras that you use or anything that you use to inspire you every day?
Always gratitude. So every day I start my day. I drink celery juice every morning, just plain celery juice, supposed to be super healthy. And I go out, and I used to go in my backyard, but now I decided about a year ago, I go in my front yard. And it's a little weird because I'm usually in my pajamas, but I take my celery juice and I walk around our grass in my bare feet. And again, I kind of talk out loud. I mean, my neighbors must think I'm a little crazy. Usually it's early enough. I know I usually see the same, couple dog walkers, but that's about it. It's so quiet. But I just am grateful. I'm grateful that I'm walking on the grass. I'm grateful that, gosh, look at this tree. I have 2 magnolia trees in my front. I always say, good morning, Magnolia 1. Good morning, Magnolia 2. And I'm just like, thank you for your beauty. Thank you, sun, for being here again. Thank you for another day. And I just do that for about 5 minutes, walking barefoot in the grass. And I just try and be present for those 5 minutes. It's not much, and I walk back in, my husband will say, so how the trees, hun? I'm like, oh, they're so pretty. They're so great today. And I just get super happy, so I definitely starting your day with some form of gratitude, especially as entrepreneurs. Gosh, it can be lonely. You work by yourself a lot sometimes. And that's the thing with my business and my real estate niche. I really am alone, and I'm okay with that, but I'm not going to the office just, hey, who's buying and selling and what's going on in this neighborhood or that, because I'm just really focused. So I think having a routine of gratitude in the morning, connection somehow, and I just think you'll set your day up right.
Right. And then how are you finding connection? So yes, the entrepreneurial journey is lonely, especially now where I think we do most of our things still online, like, this podcast online, So how are you finding connection? Are you doing meetups? Are you where is that happening?
Yeah, so I'm really fortunate. One of my friends, she's in the title business. So in California, we have title and escrow. We don't work with attorneys and that for closings and whatnot. Anyway, she started a women's group. I mean, gosh, probably about 8 or 9 years ago now. And it's awesome. So we meet up once a month. But like I said, every other meeting is in person, and the other once a month it's on Zoom. So there's that. And I don't do much other networking. Before, I used to be out trying to meet attorneys, anyone in the senior business. But it is weird. I haven't gone back to that since 2020. But I do a lot of online networking, like how I do, and a lot of Facebook groups, and I'll be in some coaching programs online. I really like group coaching programs because, to me, it's not just the one person that's kind of giving advice, it's the community of people. So I really like those. So I'm in 2 different ones for that. One's for social media and one's just for business things. And so that really fills me up. So I'm lucky that way, because I do know I have some friends that, oh my gosh, I have to be out and about more with people. And I don't have that need as much, but I do have the need for connection. So I do think as an entrepreneur, you have to seek it out, and you can't sit there and complain, oh my gosh, I'm just alone a lot. And I'm kind of going stir crazy. There are way too many ways to make connections. Even just going to work at a coffee shop. I know some people that do that regularly, and then they kind of get to know the regulars in that coffee shop. And that can fill you up. I again don't feel that need to do that as much, but like my one daughter does that all the time because she works alone. But I think it's like not playing the victim. It's like how I talk about my mental, how I just think about things and not worry about the negative. It's also not playing the victim, like, oh my gosh, I'm alone so much, or oh, I wish it was like this, or take steps to have what you want. So if you need more connections, like you mentioned, meetup, I mean, give me a break. There are so many ways to connect with people. And maybe it's not just from a business perspective, but if you like, hiking, find a hiking group, and it could turn into business connections because you don't know who will be in that group. But if you enjoy hiking, you're killing two birds with one stone anyway, because you like it. And so it's not playing the victim and not getting caught up in negativity. You have to do it for yourself. No one's coming to save you. Find it, create what you want out of life. And I guess that's probably what I'm most proud of, is like by niching in my little niche of seniors, I really have done it my way. And, not many realtors do it their way. They follow, well, you're supposed to do mailers to people. You're supposed to door knock. You're supposed to do open houses. You're supposed to volunteer, whatever, we get told. And I kind of went my own path because I need to follow what was making me happy. And so as an entrepreneur, I don't want to be lonely. I have to go seek it out. Where do I seek it out? For me, it is a lot online. I'm kind of, I love meeting people across the country. I love that because I just think, gosh, we're all out here doing it together.
It's so true. And your personality is so magnetic. Like, you have such a great energy, and all of our conversations, I'm like, man, she's so happy and so cheery. No one would ever know that you've gone through like all the different struggles in your life. And it's so funny how people just assume that you've never been through anything because you're happy and you have such a positive demeanor.
I definitely think we all have a story, right? We all have the ups and downs, the roller coaster of our life. And it hits us all so differently that some people wear their trauma sort of as a badge of honor. And there's a heaviness about them. And they're kind of always like, yeah, life's been tough. And well, it's just, I just had it harder. And I think really nobody cares. And I say that with a lot of love and compassion. Nobody really cares what you've been through when they're just kind of encountering you throughout their day, whether it's at a grocery store, whether it's in a business meeting, whether it's you're trying to close a deal. Nobody really cares. So you have to show up as the best version of yourself. And that doesn't mean to hide who you are. It's not about being inauthentic, but you know what? Choose to be in a good mood. Choose to be like, hey, I'm excited to be here. When I'm at the grocery store, I think it's so important to be kind to the checkout person. I look them in the eye and I say, thank you. I appreciate you. How's your day going? Or whatever. I think that to me is just as important as it is when I'm going to a listing appointment to meet a client for the first time and hear what they're experiencing, what's going on, and showing up with a positive attitude and saying, hey, I'm so sorry you've lost a parent. I'm so sorry it's been so difficult. I'm so sorry that there's so much maintenance that needs to be done on this house and you don't have the funds to do it. But hey, I'm here now, and what's the solution? And sort of coming across from like a positive place that we've got this. I can help you. You're not alone in this anymore. Or now, hearing entrepreneurs and their stories and them wanting to write a book. I mean, the trauma, the downs, and how they came out of that black hole is what's fascinating. And I love that. But we're still going to have a positive spin on it, right? So we have to hear it and hear the pain. But that's about the only time people want to seek out a negative situation, because you want to hear how someone else got out of it if you're in the throngs of it. But otherwise, nobody really cares. So be kind, be happy, be helpful. I always say to do more than it's expected of you. So putting the grocery cart back at the grocery store instead of leaving it next to your car. Tiny little things like that add up, so that when I'm helping someone sell a house, I'm going above and beyond and doing way more than I need to be doing as a realtor. And I don't upcharge. I don't charge more commission because I want to over
Deliver.
deliver. Yeah, I think I'm saying overdevelop, over deliver and exceed expectations. That's always my motto too for my work, exceeding expectations. And it's okay. And I'm not getting taken advantage of, and I'm not owed more because I had a hard path, because we've all had some sort of path to get where we are.
Wow. I love how you look at things. It's really refreshing, you know? And I feel like people connect with the people that they're supposed to connect with when they're in the right place to connect with them.
Yeah.
So everything in divine timing.
Yes. Oh my gosh. I love it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah. And what are your plans, like your big plans with your new journey? Like, where do you see it in the next 4 or 5 years?
So I would really love to have at least one realtor in every state in the US, and I definitely want to hit Canada too, but definitely in the US, that is, using my book as part of their program to be successful. I should do that a lot sooner than 5 years, but at least that, because I think it's sort of training people the right way so that, it's the ripple effect that everyone will be getting the right treatment and resources when they're going through a tough time with a loved one, an aging loved one. And with my book publishing business, I would love to have at least 200 in the next 5 years, at least 200 Amazon bestselling authors and 100 New York Times bestselling authors. So I have a separate program if people want to try and go the New York Times bestseller route. It's a more expensive program, but it's possible. So yeah, that's my plan.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome. And I'm so blessed and so happy to have had you on our program, on our podcast. I look forward to everything that you're doing. I'll continue to follow your links. If anyone wants to check you out, can you tell them how to get in touch with you?
Yeah, sure. Probably the easiest is Instagram. So 2 Instagram accounts. One is Next Chapter Annie. So that's all about more of my real estate stuff. And my personal one is just Annie B7. So Annie Baker 7. And then actually it's Annie FB7. I always forget the F. That's my maiden name. And then actually I just started a couple months ago my publishing Instagram account, and it's Tugboat Publishing here. So there you go, because that business is called Tugboat Publishing. So I feel like I'm trying to help people. I'm being the little tugboat that's carrying, like the big cruise ship is, the big ship is the highlight, but the tugboat's doing all the work. I want our company to do all the work so that the entrepreneur can shine.
I love it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to leave all the links below so that everybody can, get access to you to be able to fulfill their dreams. So
yay. Cassie, it's so fun meeting you. I could listen to you talk all day long. I love your voice, and your spirit just comes right through. So thank you.
Thank you so
much. I'm
much.
sure we'll stay in touch.
For sure. Thank you so much. Thank you for tuning into today's episode of Entrepreneurial Truth. One tool that I can truly recommend on how you can organize and execute systems is Notion. Notion allows you to seamlessly get information out of your head and into a centralized, organized space. Whether it's documenting processes, managing projects, or brainstorming ideas, Notion can be your go-to platform. As a special offer to our listeners, you can get started with Notion using the link in the episode description. By using our affiliate link, you not only support our podcast, but also gain access to free templates designed to kickstart your journey with Notion. These templates are specifically crafted to help entrepreneurs streamline their workflows and boost productivity. To take advantage of this offer, simply visit the affiliate link below to sign up and explore the free templates available in the resource section. Whether you're a solopreneur, managing a team, Notion can be the game changer you've been looking for. Stay tuned for more episodes where we dive deep into strategies, tools that can empower you as an entrepreneur. And don't forget to subscribe to Entrepreneurial Truth so so you never miss an episode filled with actionable advice and insights. Thank you once again for joining us today. Until next time, keep innovating and scaling your business with purpose. Thanks again.